I teach dead children. I teach dead children. I hated being a teacher and I never did like kids, but life always makes you end up doing something you hate. I hated being a high school teacher and trying to teach a couple of youngsters who had no interest in learning is the most difficult thing to accomplish in today's age. Let's be honest, most youngsters end up being nothing important and start working a job they hate. Only a lucky few get to do something they love. I lost my first teaching job last for completely letting my temper get the better of me and really grilling a student. I used a lot of swear words, politically incorrect words, and the student mother wasn't pleased, and so I was let go. I was happy and overjoyed to be leaving that high school, but at the same time I needed a job. I wanted a career change, but my only experiences were being a teacher. Then I got an email for a job offer for teachers who hated teaching high school kids. It piqued my interest. I don't know how this strange high school got my email, but I had been applying to a lot of teaching jobs on nearly every job searching site, so they must have found it through there. I replied to their email and I wanted to work straight away, and they set up an interview date. My interview was on a Sunday and the school looked like any other high school. The principal really liked me, and the salary was much better than my last teaching job. Then he told me what kind of children I would be teaching, and when he told me that I would be teaching dead kids, I was completely confused. How could anyone teach dead kids? I could teach dead kids anything I wanted in any order, he told me. He also advertised how dead kids are much better, well-behaved, and love to learn compared to your average living student. I had no idea what he was on about, but I needed a salary desperately and my rent needed being paid as well, and I just took it. I told myself that I would just learn on the go, and he shook my hand and even hugged me. This school was desperately looking for teachers and they had high scores from school inspections. On my first day as the new teacher, I had my timetable and my very own class. I came in early to set up my class, and when it turned 9 a.m. I was still writing on the whiteboard. I expected to hear students rushing in, jokes, jibes and other foolery that students do, but there was just silence. When I turned around, I screamed my head off. On each desk was a dead student with the deadly mark which killed them clearly showing. Some had a knife stuck on their head, some had bullet wounds, and others had their eyes burned out, but hey, were somehow here. They were completely silent but staring at me, and they just somehow appeared even though I had never seen them come in. I used my common sense and just decided to waffle on about basic maths, and when the lesson was nearing to its end, I gave every student some homework. As I was walking back to my desk, the time showed that class was over, and before I could shout out that the students could leave, as I turned around, they had all disappeared with their homework. I took a break to absorb what I had experienced, and it was frightening but also quite satisfying. Never in my life as a teacher had I experienced such an easy class. Dead kids were easier to teach. I taught dead kids from different age groups and years all day long, and it was a treat once I got used to it all. I went home not stressed. The next day when my first class began at 9 a.m., my first group of dead students appeared within a blink of an eye with their homework. Every dead student in the other years also did their homework, and I always taught them what I felt like teaching. When I marked every dead student's homework, all of them had achieved full marks apart from one, a boy who had a knife stuck in his head, and he was called James. He was in year 8 and he was clearly struggling. As time went on in this boy James, he started to show signs that he was in pain, which was coming from his head. For the first time ever since I started working in that school, I had finally witnessed some sort of emotion coming from a dead student. I asked another teacher about James, and he told me that when these dead students start failing to the bottom of the class, they start to feel the pain of their injuries. So James, being at the bottom of the class, is feeling the pain of the knife in his head now. Then the other teacher made a light joke about James, about him being bottom of the class, because the knife in his brain has reduced his cognitive skills. Then one day James couldn't take the pain anymore and was groaning, and he just fell to the floor and blood was now coming out of his head. I called in the principal and James had to be buried on the school field. I went home that day quite depressed, and it was on that day when the full reality of the situation really hit me. They are dead kids and death will always be around them. I wanted to have a couple of days off to mourn James, and even though he was at the bottom of his class, he always tried his best. The principal allowed me to have a couple of days off but warned me that some dead kids may still turn up at my house because dead kids are always eager to learn. They did in small numbers turn up at random places in my house, and thank God I am single. I recovered though, and I enjoyed teaching dead kids throughout the summer, and I was looking forward to teaching new dead kids who were going to start during the new year in September. When September arrived, I didn't expect to get a rush of live students instead of dead ones, and they were all loud and obnoxious. These kids came from rough homes where their parents didn't love them nor care for them if anything happened to them. Some of them came from another country and didn't speak English. I was confused by all of this, but I was given a note that read, around 9:30 a.m. all the teachers had to gather up in the staff room. I didn't bother teaching these live kids because I was scared that they were going to punch me in the face if I tried to make them do something. Then 9:30 a.m. came and I rushed out into the staff room where the other teachers were saying bad things about their live high school kids. Then a group of masked men came into the school and into every classroom. I heard gunshots, stabbing sounds and other sounds of death coming from the classrooms. Then chanting could be heard coming from the men inside the classrooms. Then these men then walked out of the classroom and the other teachers were overjoyed that the troubled live kids were now dead. When I went into my classroom, no one was messing around or doing inappropriate things. They were dead but ready to learn. Some had knives stuck into their body, others had bullet wounds, and when the lesson ended, within a blink of an eye they all disappeared. This job is starting to get to me. For more stories, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thanks.